So interesting. We're talking about Rowan Williams, and I've been still writing this course. Every course I've done so far, I've had written before I started. But this having to read a lot of books more than normal,
and we appreciate you.
Oh yes, yeah. It was so fascinating, so interesting. One of the things I'm reading all these various contemporary Anglican and Episcopalian theologians. And one thing I noticed yesterday is like, almost every one of them quotes Rowan Williams at least once in their book, if not several times. So he really is a very influential, I don't know, because he was the Archbishop of Canterbury or he became the Archbishop of Canterbury because he was already influential in theological circles. If he just has interesting, brilliant ideas. I don't know what it is that every other theologian wants to quote him and refer to him, but so I find it interesting. And yeah, I think he wrote a lot of books and he has a lot of interesting ideas. But anyway, so this idea of the, where's my, hang on a second. I forgot to load this properly. Oh, there we go.
He looks jolly.
So there we go. Yeah, so hang on. I don't know what I'm doing here. Here we go. Rowan Williams. And so he thought this Four Quartets by T.S. Eliot.
Yeah, I started reading that after the meeting last week, and man, that's kind of way out there.
Yeah. Yeah, he felt like it really reflected the appearance of meaning within an inherently meaningless world, is how he phrased it. And he refers to the Four Quartets several times at three different phases of his life in lectures and writing and sermons. So, like I mentioned yesterday or last week when we were talking about him, he had meningitis as an infant and led to him being not very athletic, which led to him reading a lot, even as an adolescent, reading materials that was way above the normal age level, a lot of philosophy and theology. And that included some T.S. Eliot and pondering the meaning of that. And so I thought it'd be interesting to read through the Four Quartets and discuss it. And if you have insights along the way or have impressions about it, feel free to share it. And then we'll just go over what Williams thought about it. And so I have the Four Quartets broken down into pages for everybody to be able to read. And rather than me read them all, let's take turns. Everybody take a screen and read through it, and feel free to interrupt and make comments. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Time present and time past are both perhaps present in time future, and time future contained in time past, if all time is eternally present. All time is unredeemable. What might have been is an abstraction, remaining a perpetual possibility, only in a world of speculation. What might have been and what has been point to one end, which is always present. Footfalls echo in the memory.
Ooh.
Oh, down the passage which we did not take, towards the door we never opened, into the rose garden my words echo, thus in your mind. But to what purpose? Disturbing the dust on a bowl of rose leaves? I do not know. Other echoes. Inhabit the garden, shall we follow? Quick, said the bird, find them, find them. Round the corner, through the first gate, into our first world. Shall we follow?
Bit dark, I think. Who else wants to read?
Is that
I'll go.
Okay.
The deception of the thrush into our first world. There they were, dignified, invisible, moving without pressure over the dead leaves, in the autumn heat through the vibrant air. And the bird called in response to the unheard music hidden in the shrubbery, and the unseen I-beam crossed, for the roses had the look of flowers that are looked at. There they were as our guests, accepted and accepting. So we moved, and they, in a formal pattern, along the empty alley into the box circle to look down into the drained pool. Dry the pool, dry concrete, brown edged, and the pool was filled with water out of sunlight, and the lotus rose quietly, quietly. The surface glittered out of heart of light, and they were behind us, reflected in the pool. Then a cloud passed and the pool was empty. Go, said the bird, for the leaves were full of children, hidden excitedly, containing laughter. Go, 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 said the bird. Humankind cannot bear very much reality. Time past and time future, what might have been and what has been, point to one end, which is always present.
That was the first quartet. Now we're on to the second.
Well, the first one was called Burnt Norton.
Was called what?
Burnt Norton.
Burnt Norton.
And that's the name of a manor in England.
Yeah.
Eliot's wife was going mad, and they were estranged for years, and her family had Vivian incarcerated in a rest home. Eliot was then essentially a single man, but he never divorced. And he had an American woman, I think named Emily Hale. She came to England after years of correspondence, and they did some sightseeing, and they went to Burnt Norton. Burnt Norton was this great big house, which the original manor owner had gone crazy and had burned, trying to kill himself. I don't know if he succeeded. It was rebuilt and became a boys' school. And it was open to the public. You could come and tour, and it had the garden, which is what he's describing here. So he had remembered this and used this, and also phrases from his play, Murder in the Cathedral, about the murder of Thomas à Becket. He had some phrases of poetry that he had never utilized in the play. And those came to him when he and Emily were touring Burnt Norton and the garden. And the little children laughing and the suppressed laughter and the leaves and all that could be the schoolboys, or it could be children which people had not yet had. And these poems then became a group that were published around the time of World War II, and we have to think about them all being there, with the Nazis rising and coming. So
that's interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Thank you, Janice. They were published over the series of several years. My understanding is 7 or 8 years it took them to publish the series of poems, and it was later put together in one book. That's a really interesting story about Burnt Norton.
Yeah, each of the poems is a place that he had visited, and not
Really?
necessarily with Emily. He never married her, and nothing ever came. And after Vivian died, he married his secretary. So it was like, too bad for you, Emily. She always thought, I think, that she was going to be the second Mrs. Eliot.
Oh, wow. So Janice, where was the second quartet based?
Let's see, what was
East
it?
Corker.
East?
It's called East Corker.
East, yeah, okay. This is this was after the war had started and they were beginning to bomb England, the Nazis. And so the destruction scenes and the war scenes and all of that in East Coker. And I don't know, I haven't read as far in this book that we were using. I'd ordered this book, and at least it's giving me backgrounds on where the poems are. Nelson and I are bouncing back and forth between reading commentary and reading the poems.
Oh, interesting.
Nelson is indulging me in this.
I'm sure he's enjoying it too. All right, so who wants to start reading the second quartet?
I'll go. East Corker. In my beginning is my end. In succession, houses rise and fall, crumble and are extended, are removed, destroyed, restored, or in their place is an open field, or a factory, or a bypass. Old stone to new building, old timber to new fires, old fires to ashes, and ashes to the earth, which is already flesh, fur, and feces. Is that right?
Feces.
Feces. Bone of man and beast, cornstalk and leaf, houses live and die. There is a time for building and a time for living and for generation and a time for the wind to break the loosened pane and to shake the wainscot where the field mouse trots and to shake the tattered arras woven with a silent motto. In my beginning is my end. Now the light falls across the open field, leaving the deep lane shuttered with branches, dark in the afternoon, where you lean against the bank while a van passes, and the deep lane insists on the direction into the village. In the electric heat, hypnotized in a warm haze, the sultry light is absorbed, not refracted by gray stone. The dahlias sleep in the empty silence. Wait for the early owl. I can continue if you like. In that open field, if you do not come too close, on the summer night, midnight, you can hear the music of the weak pipe and the little drum, and see them dancing around the bonfire. The association of man and woman in dancing, signifying matrimony, a dignified and commodious sacrament, two and two, necessary conjunction, holding each other by the hand or the arm, which betokeneth concord, round and round the fire, leaping through the flames, or joined in circles, rustically solemn or in rustic laughter, lifting heavy feet in clumsy shoes, earth feet, lone feet, lifted in country mirth, mirth that is long since under earth, nourishing the corn, keeping time, keeping the rhythm in their dancing, as in their living in the living seasons, the time of the seasons and the constellation, the time of milking and the time of harvest, the time of coupling of man and woman, and that of beasts, feet rising and falling, eating and drinking, dung and death. Dawn points, and another day prepares for the heat and silence. Out at sea, the dawn wind wrinkles and slides. I am here, or there, or elsewhere in my beginning.
Does anybody Rowan Williams' point that this is the represents the appearance of meaning in an inherently meaningless world?
Well, he's looking at destroyed areas that were once there had been houses.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about the rising and the falling of houses, but the bombing of buildings, and then how old stones and timber are used to build new things. House can be not only a manor or, a tenement or, a skyscraper, but it can also be a family. The royal families were called the houses, and everybody else was too. That description there, where it lapsed into sort of Middle English, Old English, the spelling sounds like Chaucer, and it was making me see that picture of Peter Bruegel's The Peasant Wedding. Peter Bruegel, the artist from, oh goodness, was he Middle Ages, 1600s. He did paintings of many peasant themes, hunters coming home from the hill, the people dressed in peasant costumes. So that description of the heavy feet where they had the clunky shoes and, the clothing, and the wedding out in a field, that people would get married, perhaps even before churches, or they would have their party after the church wedding out in the fields. So
this movement in the second quartet also picks up the theme about the confluence of our concepts of time, past, present, and future. And you also probably saw the echoes of Ecclesiastes in some of the phrases.
Right.
Yeah, time of the seasons and time for milking, time of harvest.
Right. Which is also very dark and, like I said, appearance of meaning in a otherwise apparently meaningless world. Yeah, I think Ecclesiastes is a good comparison. All right, who wants to take the next one?
okay, actually what we've done here is Garlic and Sapphires in the Mud. This is part 2 of Burnt Norton.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, each one of the quartets is divided into five bits.
Oh, okay.
And he, with Burnt Norton, he wasn't even planning the rest of the poems. That was just on its own. So we kind of jumped ahead here by going to the second poem.
I'm sorry.
I
I didn't print out what Dave did, so I'm just looking at the thing.
Yeah, that's okay, Rob.
Yeah.
I apparently missed some of the quartets too, so I thought I had gathered them together pretty well, but
Yeah, so this is the second part of Burnt Norton here, the Garlic and Sapphires in the Mud, Plot the Bedded Axle Tree. This is where I'm starting to see and hear wee bits of Christian figures. Yeah, and we have Eastern religions as well as Christianity. And this is what you had talked about last week, that Rowan Williams was attracted to or quoting. I find in that the inclusiveness, just like Rob was saying about the Episcopal Church being a place where you can come and you can have other thoughts and other interpretations of things. Rob, when you talked about that, what brought you to the Episcopal Church? And I see this in T.S. Eliot, who put everything together. And by the way, if you're reading this on your own for the first time, Eliot he quotes, uses things from all sorts of places. And his original poem that shocked the world to death, called The Wasteland, which came out after World War I, was when he was young and being an atheist, and everything was just, as he's saying here, that referring to the feces and the dung you know, that this is, the world is shit and, you know, meaningless. It's, you know, life, death, and, you know, that's it. Too bad for you. And it was the young man's writing, but he was brilliant, and he had read, yeah. Oh goodness, Dante was his the Inferno, and you know all those descriptions. If you've read Dante and gotten through that, I have not read Dante, and
Yeah, I haven't either.
I know long descriptions of what it's like in hell and all the circles of hell and how you are in a circle according to your sins on earth, and consequently whatever is being done to you there is a result. And Dante in the poems is on this journey, and he's being given a tour. And likewise, we see Eliot doing the tours of places where he has somebody talking, whether it's him or whether it's an unknown narrator going and seeing things and describing them to us, we who were not there. So the wasteland hit the world like crazy because it didn't rhyme. It quoted everything that nobody had ever read or heard of, threw it all together. And what you got out of it, though, was a picture of confusion and misery and meaninglessness. And you can read the four quartets the same way. I mean, you don't have to know, none of us we don't have to know if he is quoting, what all these allusions are, because believe me, he's got, it's like showing off, except now he's an older man in the midst of a second war. And he has also come to Christianity, and he is, I think 1937, I can't remember the year when he converted, but he became very devoted and was attending church every day. And he had grown up in a congregational church in St. Louis here in the United States. And his father was very, very, the preacher, and was very, very fundamental and very demanding. And here he had this brilliant son who fled to England and had all this great readings and rejected the father's Christianity and went wild, with flappers and champagne and dancing and etc. And his wild wife is the one, what was attractive about her at the beginning turned into her insanity. I don't know if she took drugs or what, but she never went back into the real world again. And Eliot went on with his brilliant mind, knowing everything and learning things, but showing it off, and then gradually coming back to something new. And like Rob was saying, finding the church where he could find ancient truths, and he was blending them with truths from around the world. So
it's so interesting. Yeah, it really is a parallel to Rowan's way of thinking.
Yeah. But this second portion of Burnt Norton, look at what's in here. Garlic and sapphires in the mud. What's that say to you? Sapphires would be something beautiful and valuable and wonderful. Garlic would be what? We think of it as a seasoning. We're told by doctors it's good for your heart and everything else, but Nelson's calling it a noxious weed. He doesn't like it in cooking.
Well, I love garlic.
But again, in the mud,
Yeah, in the mud, right.
growing things, and also this is, what is that? Animal, vegetable, mineral type things. Clot the bedded axle tree. Now.
I'm just looking up axle tree. It says a bar or beam of wood or iron connecting the opposite wheels of a carriage, on the ends of which the wheels resolve. revolve, a spindle or axle of a wheel.
Right. Now, can you see the shape of that though? You know, the cross piece, but then does the axle tree connect to, what do they call it? Is it a drivetrain? Where it goes to the second set of wheels at the back of a car?
Yeah, drivetrain.
Oh, okay. So you're getting a cross shape. See that?
Yeah.
So this is the allusion to crucifixion. And the trilling wire in the blood, that sounds like both mechanical and making noises, but the blood, and then sings below inveterate scars. And you think of the scars that Jesus had, the blood. And then appeasing long forgotten wars. That sounds like, you know, payment for sins.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes into, here we get medicine, the dance along the artery, the circulation of the lymph are figured in the drift of stars. But you remember the scene of the crucifixion when the soldier plunged the sword into his side?
Yeah.
And they said that both blood and water ran out. So here's from the artery, the blood, and the lymph was what looked like water to
Sure, yeah, that was the water.
till that time. And all of that figured in the drift of stars. So that are there figured pictures like constellations that reenact this? And he's going to have other star things, and then we're down here below. So there's that in the heavens and then us down below.
Too deep for an engineer like me.
Yeah.
Which you,
Stars also, you know, was the crucifixion then foretold
yes.
in the Old Testament?
Oh, and what about the Magi and the stars?
Yeah, I was thinking of that when I saw that line.
Oh, good. See, all that comes together. All of our own readings and knowledge of, you know, stories of our church, but other things as well.
Christian imagery and symbols.
Yeah. And any time in poetry, and Eliot, especially when he talks about a tree, he's talking about the cross too. So ascend to summer in the tree. So what was figured in the drift of stars ascends to summer in the tree. We move above the moving tree.
Mm-hmm.
In light upon the figured leaf and here upon the sodden floor. And then does this continue?
Yeah, let me see the next.
Here it is. Here's the one that I had seen. So we're now up in the trees and looking down, and in the stars looking down. Below, the boarhound and the boar pursue their pattern as before, but reconciled among the stars. Boarhound, put that into German. Schweinhund.
Yeah, Schweinhund, right. Sure.
And so this is, you know, both the animal that is the prey, and it's, you know, the boar, and the boarhound, the Schweinhund, chasing him. So they're, you know, circling and slashing and fighting down among the leaves on the ground, but they're reconciled in the stars. So this hunting and the animals and the constellations and the foretellings and all of that, it's supposed to kind of, if you know all the backgrounds to what Eliot was referring to, which probably were 2 or 3 things at a time, because he would have read, you know, about hunting, and he would have read about the constellations, and he would have known philosophies and Greek mythology that went with it. Mm-hmm. Adonis being killed by the boar, and etc. He would have all this stuff just mingling around, and yet when we read it, we still get a picture, and we can still pick out a meaning and get the feeling of it. We don't have to know every little precise detail.
Right. Right. But it's even deeper if you do know all these. That's why I knew you would be a valuable resource on this part. We need the English teacher.
And the philosopher husband who.
Yes, help us understand this. There is definitely a lot of depth to it.
Should we go ahead with this reading? At
Sure.
the still point of the turning world, neither flesh nor fleshless, neither from nor towards. What did you want to do?
Yeah, you want to? Yeah, I mean it's 9:57. So
Oh my gosh.
Yes. That's,
we might want to call it off for liturgy.
yep.
We could spend a lot of time next couple of months on this.
You're right, Rob. We could, but this is
What-
really interesting stuff.
What was the book that you guys, Janice, you were reading on the background of this? Was it just on T.S. Eliot or was on this particular poem?
Well, we got a copy of the 4 quartets from Amazon, and then this one I really wouldn't recommend. I thought it was going to be a real good commentary. The Voices of Silence by the Reverend J.C. Woods. I thought, okay, good, an Episcopal priest talking about this poem. And it turns out it's a Vanity Press thing. He published it himself.
Oh,
Okay, TikTok, Nelson's saying time. So I wouldn't recommend this, but there are other things. And you can go online and find people that have talked about it.
yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for
Yes,
your
yes, thank you all for
comment.
participating.
Information is very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, reading this cold, it was kind of daunting when I first started to read it. And then you come on and give us a little background, and then it starts to make a little more sense. So that's the always thing about poetry. A poet is using his knowledge and background to make references in his poem that you might not know exactly what he's talking about, and until maybe you read some commentary, and then you find out, oh, he's referring to this, and then it starts to make a little more sense.
Right.
Dave, what's our plan and focus for their next meeting?
We're gonna do other topics for Rowan Williams has some other topics to talk about.
Okay. Good.
Was he really into blending other philosophies with Christianity, you think?
I think he was fascinated by it. And he looked for ways to find harmony between other philosophies and religions. He's definitely committed to the Christian faith and the Anglican interpretation of that. But I think he looked for, reconciliation between peoples in his work, and trying to find common ground and harmony between people of other faiths and other traditions.
I love this picture of him. That you
Yeah.
have. He reminds me the same kind of warmth projecting like our current bishop here in the United States, Michael
Mhm.
Curry.
Yeah,
That's just what it looks like.
yeah, I agree.
I'd
Well,
want to
good.
talk to him.
There's good lighting on his head to give that aura about him. As a photographer, this is good. You got that
Yes.
highlight.
Yeah,
That's a halo for sure.
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, more Rowan Williams next week.
Okay, folks.
Yep.
Good morning and good week to everyone.
Yeah, you too. We'll see you next week.
Later.
See you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.